I smelled whiskey and expensive perfume before seeing her. The celebration was in full swing and the music was too loud. Fake grins are everywhere. Suits and gowns swirled around as if they were in a corporate mating dance. I was not allowed to be here, but Emily insisted. Only one drink. She had stated this as her fingertips traced circles on my wrist that morning. It is significant to me. Yeah, it's crucial to her. So, like an idiot, I showed up, and now I'm standing near the bar, my drink unfinished, as my wife crushed her body against another man, speaking into his ear as if they were the only two people in the room. I recognized him immediately. Her coworker, Nathan Carter, married 2 children. The type of person that shook your hand too firmly to demonstrate something. I told myself to be calm. I convinced myself it didn't mean anything. Then she did it. Emily tossed her head back, laughing. Not just any laughter. The laugh. The one she used to keep only for me. The one that appeared at 2 a.m. when we got caught up in bed sheets. The one who convinced me that I was the only man in the world who could make her feel that way. And now she was handing it to him. Something inside me became frigid. Before I could think, I took 5 long paces across the room. Nathan had seen me, but Emily hadn't. Oh. He noticed. He stiffened, adjusted his tie, and took a half step backward. Guilty. Emily eventually turned. "Ah, you made it?" She chirped, her eyes blazing with something I could not identify. Not guilty. Annoyance? I didn't respond. I simply stared at her, then at Nathan. "What's so funny?" She blinked and then smirked. "Relax, babe." It was only a joke. Nathan shifted comfortably. "Yes, man. I'm just fooling around. Just a joke. I'm just fooling around." Emily's hand still rested on his chest. I could hear my own breathing. Blood was pouring through my ears. I could feel the gazes of half the room on us now. I groped for her wrist as the chatter died down. She gently but purposefully withdrew her hand away from him. "Let's talk outside." Her smirk wavered. But then she did something unexpected. She turned to Nathan, rolled her eyes, and spoke loudly enough for everyone to hear. "You are ending our marriage over a joke." The room went completely silent, and she laughed again. But this time, it was directed at me. That's when I realized this wasn't a joke. This was the beginning of something far worse. Laughter, sharp, cold, cruel. Emily was not ashamed. She was not guilty. She was not even attempting to justify herself. She was ridiculing me. Everyone was staring now. I watched the event unfold as if it were free entertainment. Some tried to look away, pretending they weren't listening to every word, but I noticed the smirks and whispering behind. Half-empty wine glasses. I moved closer. "What the hell did you say?" Emily sighed like if I was exhausting her, as if I were some clingy idiot making a fuss over nothing. I said. She drawled, whirling the drink in her hand. "You're breaking our marriage over a joke at a work party in front of my coworkers. Do you know how foolish you sound right now?" Nathan snorted. "That son of a—" My fist clenched, but my voice remained firm. I repeated the joke. "That is what you call flirting with another man. Put your hands on him." She tilted her head. "Flirting? Oh, someone is feeling uneasy tonight. I swear to God." Something inside of me snapped before I could stop myself. I grabbed her drink and banged it on the bar. Liquid splashed on the counter and onto her clothing. A gasp echoed throughout the crowd. Emily stepped back, eyes widened, not in fear but in wrath. "Oh, Mark, you're really mature." She grabbed a napkin and dabbed at the spot as if I had spilled coffee and lost all of my tolerance. Jesus, grow up. I felt eyes on me. I knew how it looked. The frustrated spouse, the tense situation, the golden wife is playing the victim. Nathan made a step forward. Now that he had an audience, he was full of phony bravado. "Hey, man, maybe you should calm down." I turned on him so quickly that he flinched. "And maybe you should shut the hell up before I give you a legitimate reason to be concerned." That did it. He backed away abruptly. his gaze fixed on his empty glass. Emily laughed again, with the same taunting, aggravating chuckle. "You're humiliating yourself," she remarked, shaking her head. "It's no wonder she cut herself off. No surprise." "You what?" "Emily?" Her face turned pale for a fraction of a second, just a flicker. But I saw it, so that was all I needed. Something was off about her lack of panic. She wasn't even trying to talk her way out of it. Nathan tightened up before I even walked up, as if he knew something I didn't. I took a slow breath and kept my voice low and quiet. "Emily?" I asked. "Do you sleep with him?" Silence. The song kept playing. Glasses clinked. But there was silence all around us. I waited, and suddenly she grinned. Not a nervous smile, not an apologetic one. No, this is a challenge. She took a step closer, pushing a palm against my chest, her nails dragging slowly across the fabric of my shirt. Her breath was warm and whiskey-sweet. She brushed my neck as she leaned in, and then murmured in the softest, most venomous whisper, "What if I am?" The room swirled. My body became icy chilly. I felt my own heartbeat pounding against my ribs as if it was trying to break free. She then pulled back. She picked up her clutch. Just like that, she walked away. Not one glance back. Nathan hesitated before rushing after her. I stood there paralyzed, ashamed, outraged, and absolutely destroyed, with a single thought burning in my mind. This is not over. The moment Emily walked away, everything around me became background noise, chatter, clinking glasses, and music. Nothing mattered anymore. She'd challenged me, not denied. "You are not excused." He dared me to react. Nathan had pursued her like a weak lapdog, leaving me standing in the ruins of whatever pride I still had. But I was not going to stand here and play the fool in the story she would tell later. I turned on my heel and exited the party, get over the perplexed expressions. Past the faux sympathy in the eyes of those who had seen everything but pretended not to. I needed answers. 30 minutes later, the drive home was a haze. I scarcely recalled it. My fists grabbed the steering wheel so tightly that I could feel the leather bite into my palms. I stormed inside the home and went straight for her phone charger. Emily was irresponsible and arrogant. She thought she was more intelligent than me, but she was also predictable. She had a tendency of leaving her phone plugged into the kitchen counter while she prepared for bed. And tonight, that small detail was going to cost her. I yanked open the drawer where we stored odd rubbish. Old receipts, dead batteries, and spare keys. My hands clasped around her ancient iPad. Emily never used it again, but I remembered something. She did not. Her iMessages remained tied to it. I switched it on. Locked. I gritted my teeth. I tried the passcode. Her birthday? No. Is it our anniversary? No. Her mother's birthday. Now? I was about to lose it when I paused, took a breath, and entered the one thing Emily cared about, her sister's name. The screen unlocked. And with that, I was within the messages. My hands remained steady as I opened her texts. I wasn't sure what I was expecting. Perhaps a flirtatious text, a late night. Message. I had a great time tonight, but what I discovered was much worse. Her conversation with Nathan went beyond casual texting. It wasn't an innocuous workplace friendship. It was months and months of late-night communications, secret encounters, inside jokes, and memories that did not involve me. Then I saw it. A hotel reservation from 2 weeks ago, paid for with our shared credit card. I stared at the screen. My heart slowed. A strange, unsettling peace came over me. She had not only betrayed me, she'd been using me to do it. I inhaled carefully before making a decision with absolute clarity. Emily was going to regret this, every aspect of it. I did not sleep. I did not even try. I sat in the dark, staring at the screen and reading through each message. every filthy detail about Emily's behavior behind my back. They followed a system, a routine. Nathan would send her a text from his work phone, never his personal one. They never discussed their meetups directly. Always in code, always vague, but never vague enough. Lunch meeting required a motel room. She was in his car somewhere after a late night at work. And the worst part? She was happy. Her communications were filled with enthusiasm. She flirted with him like she hadn't with me in years. She complained about me as if I were some tedious inconvenience she had to deal with between their brief encounters. I swear, he has no idea. It is almost too easy. He honestly believes I am working late. Oh well. God, I hate that he is still trying. It's pathetic. I should have been upset. I should have flung the iPad across the room, punched a hole in the wall, and yelled into the night like a distraught idiot. But I did not. I sat there, staring at the words. And something within me settled. Hurt and dismay. It was gone. I had everything I needed. At 5 a.m., I woke up, showered, and dressed as if it were any other day. I prepared coffee and ate breakfast, and Emily finally stepped in the door, weary, her mascara smudged, her hair a tangle. I didn't say anything. She blinked at me like a deer caught in the headlights. "You're awake early." I smiled. Couldn't sleep. She paused. "I am. I stayed with my sister. She fought with her boyfriend. A complete lie without hesitation. Flawless." I nodded, took a drink of coffee. "That is nice of you." She was watching me, looking for something strange, so I gave her nothing. She strolled past me more slowly than usual, possibly wondering whether I knew anything. She had no idea, and by the time she found out, it was too late. Emily slept till noon. I allowed her. I sat in the living room, sipping my second cup of coffee and scrolling through her texts again, reading every word and detail. Not to torture myself, but to ensure I had everything correct. She stepped into the room, stretching and yawning like if she hadn't spent the night betraying me, and smiled like nothing had occurred. "Morning," she explained, raking her fingers over her knotted hair. I looked up. Afternoon. She paused. I blinked at the clock. I guess I was more exhausted than I realized. I did not respond. I merely took another drink of coffee and returned to my phone. She paused, then sat across from me on the couch, raising her knees. "Hey, about last night." "Finally." I laid my coffee down and laced my fingers together. "Yeah," she bit her lip. "Fake nervous?" "I did not intend to embarrass you," I tilted my head. It embarrassed me. She exhaled, like this was difficult for her, as if she were the one suffering here. "You overreacted." "Mark, it was only a joke. You understand how I am? I become flirtatious when I drink. It means nothing." A complete confession cloaked in gaslighting. I smiled again. Of course, I overreacted. Her eyes sparkled with relief. She believed she had won. I let the stillness linger, letting her believe it was over. Then I leaned forwards. "By the way, how is your sister?" Emily blinked. "Your sister?" I kept my voice light and easygoing. "You mentioned that you stayed with her last night. Is she okay?" She paused for just a second, but I saw it. "Yeah," she replied quickly. "She and Kyle got into it again." I needed to calm her down. I nodded slowly. "Kyle?" She swallowed. "Yeah." I kept her stare for a moment longer. Then I grabbed up my phone and began typing. Emily frowned. "What are you doing now?" I looked up, smiling white and tranquil. "Oh, I just texted your sister. I'm sure she'll be pleased. I care a lot." Her face had lost its color. "Wait." She sat up upright, suddenly totally awake. "Mark, don't." But I had already pressed. "Send." She lunged. I yanked my arm back, avoiding her hold. I'm seeing her panic explode. "What the hell, Mark?" Her voice was sharper now, desperate. I put my phone down. I crossed my arms. "Is there something wrong?" M's hands curled into fists. "Why are you texting her?" You do not even like her. Because I'm worried, I replied, cocking my head. After all, you were quite concerned last night. I decided I should check in and make sure she was okay. Emily's breath had changed. Her chest rose and sank too quickly. Then her phone buzzed. She froze. Her gaze shifted to the television, and I noticed it. Pure, undeniable horror. We both understood exactly what was in that message. The truth. This time, she couldn't bluff her way out. Emily looked at her phone as if it were a live grenade. She did not move, did not take a breath. I waited. Her fingers twitch, as if she wanted to seize it, flip it over, control the harm. But she knew I was watching, so she forced herself to take a breath. I tried to keep things calm. Tried. You're being really weird, she replied, her voice tense. I leaned back. Weird. She forced a laugh. Yes, you are just unattractive. She scratched her forehead, as if this were stressful for her, as if she were the victim in this case. Why are you acting like this? I smiled, slow, sharp. I don't know, Em. Maybe because I recently discovered my wife is a liar. Her entire body stiffened. The air between us moved as before a rainstorm, when the sky gets dark and everything vibrates with strain. She recovered quickly. Oh, God, Mark. Seriously? Over this? Are you still upset about the party? No, I stated I'm mad because you're a lousy liar. She scoffed. Excuse me? Your sister? I remarked, nodding at her phone. Let us see what she said. She remained totally still for one precise second. I noticed it all over her face. She was calculating algebra in her head, desperately looking for an explanation, an escape. Then she attempted to flip the script. She crossed her arms and narrowed her eyes. Wow. Are you really snooping on me now? You not trust me? I gave a quick laugh. Oh, I realize I can't trust you. Her nostrils flared. That is disgusting. What is it? I inquired, tilting my head. The snooping or the fact that I apprehended you? She opened her mouth. Shut it. Her phone vibrated again. She flinched. Go ahead, I said, indicating. Check it. She clenched her jaw. I don't need to do anything. I shrugged. No, you don't. But we both know exactly what's on the screen. Emily's breathing pattern changed. She realized she was cornered, so I came in close enough to sense her panic. I muttered, just admit it. Say it aloud. Her throat bobbed, her hands tightened into fists, her entire body screamed, fight or flight. And then she did something unexpected. She smiled, slow, small, dangerous, and in a scarcely audible voice she said, what if I didn't? A challenge and a caution. I stared at her coldly, unblinking. Then I grinned back, knowing Emily had no idea. I wasn't playing games anymore. Emily believed she was untouchable. She believed she could twist this, control it, and drag me into her little game, which she always won. At the finish. But not this time. I allowed the stillness to hover between us, stretching it out till she began to move. Uncomfortable. That was a phony smirk. It was sliding. Her fingers tapped across her leg. Nervous. She despised the feeling of being out of control. I leaned back, remaining calm. So you won't admit it? She tilted her head, still attempting to seem subtle. What do you admit? I smiled. Cruel. Controlled. That you are a liar and a cheater. Her phone vibrated again. We both looked at it before she could respond. I lunged. She gasped to slow my hand and snatched the phone from the table. She screamed my name and dived forward, but I was already up, moving, stepping back. Give it back, she screamed. My eyes are wild right now. I flipped the screen open. I read the text out loud to watch her break after receiving one notification preview. Emily. WTF? Mark has just texted me. Call me right now. Silence. I lifted my eyes to meet hers. Emily's entire body was tense, frozen, exposed. She had nothing left, no falsehoods, no excuses. There are no lovely tiny deflections, just me standing there with the proof. I watched as everything crashed down on her. Then I said, "Low and sharp? I hope he was worth it." Then she opened her mouth. Asterisk, asterisk, perhaps to plead, perhaps to yell, perhaps to lie one more time. Asterisk, asterisk. I tossed her phone on the couch, turned, and walked away, because Emily had not realized it yet. But this was only the beginning. Emily did not follow me, not right away. As I proceeded down the hall toward our bedroom, I could feel her astonishment and reluctance, the gears in her head whirling too quickly. She assumed she still had time. She believed she could find the proper angle, the perfect lie, the justification to cure everything. But there was nothing more to fix. I walked into our room, pulled a duffel bag from the closet, and jerked it open. That's when I noticed her footsteps, fast and desperate. Emily's voice became harsh and full of panic. "Mark, please wait." She appeared at the doorway. "I am having difficulty breathing." Her gaze shifted to the bag and her hands tightened into fists. Now she cared. I did not even look at her. Just started grabbing clothes and stuffing them inside. She stepped in. "Are you actually doing this?" Nonetheless, I said nothing. She gave a hesitant laugh. "Oh, come on, you are being theatrical." I unzipped the bag halfway, paused, and gently turned my head. "Dramatic?" I repeated in a deathly quiet voice. She swallowed. "Yes. You are overreacting. I mean, Jesus, Mark. It was simply some texts, and I let out a sharp, bitter laugh. Just a few texts." I reached into my pocket, took out my phone, and touched the screen. "Do you want me to read them back to you?" I scrolled, my tone sarcastic. "Oh, this is an excellent one. God, I hate that he is still trying. It's pathetic." Emily flinched. I took a step towards her. "Tell me, what exactly is sad?" "I loved you and trusted you." She shakes her head. "Mark, I didn't intend it that way. You were just what?" My voice snapped. She jumped, and for the first time I witnessed it. "Have no fear." Because she was terrified of me. No. Emily was too haughty for that. She was afraid because she was losing. "You can't talk yourself out of this." I spoke in a low, steady tone. "Not this time." She was shaking now. "Okay, stop packing. Let us discuss about this." I smirked. "Oh, you want to talk?" I threw a shirt in the bag. "Too awful. I am done listening." She went into a panic. Emily reached at my wrist, attempting to physically stop me, but the moment her fingers touched my skin, I pulled my arm away as if she were poison. She gasped and looked at me with wide eyes and opened lips. I was surprised since she had always been able to touch, control, and bring me back in with a soft hand and a murmured apology throughout our marriage. But not this time. Never again. I breathed through my nose and shook my head. Then, softly to softly, I murmured, "Don't touch me again." Emily's lips shook as she realized she'd completely lost me. However, she still had one move remaining. Her face wrinkled, her voice cracked. "Mark, please," she whispered. Her first real plea. I love you." I froze, looked her in the eyes. Then I smiled, sharp, cold, deadly. "No, you don't." Then I closed my bag, moved past her, and left her standing there devastated and alone. Because of Emily, Emily had finally run out of moves. Emily was not done. I knew she would not let me walk away. She had spent years regulating every aspect of our lives, including our routines and friendships. The way I dressed and spoke. Emily had a knack of making everything feel like her choice. Even if I were the one who desired anything. She twisted, giving the impression that she allowed it, and suddenly she was losing her grip, so of course she followed me. I was halfway down the hallway when she grasped the doorframe. The voice rises in desperation. "Mark, please listen to me." I continued walking. She stomped forwards. Her breathing was ragged. "Are you leaving? Seriously? You are just walking out. Like what? Like none of this mattered." I paused, turned around, and Emily took a step back. Only one. I'm going to walk out. I spoke slowly, my voice steady, lethal. Because this is the last thing you expected me to do. Her lips parted, but no words emerged. She wanted to argue and yell, but she knew I was correct. Because Emily never imagined I would leave. I watched as her chest rose and fell. I watched the panic in her eyes turn into something else, something unpleasant, something harmful. Then she did it. The final card, the final desperate move. She stood up, contrived a vicious little sneer, and spat. You aren't leaving. We both know you do not have the balls. I laughed loudly, bitterly, and shook my head. I mumbled, That's cute. You really believe you have control here, don't you? Emily folded her arms defensively, attempting to disguise her dread. But I wasn't playing anymore. I stepped forward. I watched her motionless eyes flicker to the door, trapped. And then I said it clearly and definitively. You'll come to regret every second of this. Her breath hitched, and I noticed it through terror, because Emily may have been a liar, manipulator, or cheater, but she was also intelligent, and she had just realized something. This was not over. Definitely not. Emily had always been in control. Every argument, debate, and moment of stress between us. She decided how it would end. She determined when it was done. When will we be able to go on? When I was finally permitted to be okay again. But this was not going to end on her terms. I saw it in her eyes. I told her right away that she would regret what she had done. Something shifted because she realized I meant it. For the first time in our whole marriage, Emily had no idea what I planned to do next, and this terrified her. Her throat bobbed. She attempted to maintain the charade, but I could see the fractures. Emily's true personality was seen. Now. You are being cruel, she whispered. I smiled. Cruel, sharp, unapologetic, good. She blinked, caught off guard. She believed she could guilt me, pull me back with a sad expression, a trembling lip. Not this time. I turned, grabbed my stuff, and went away. But before I went through the door, I halted. I looked over my shoulder. Emily tensed, then spoke in such a calm tone that it barely seemed like my own. I mentioned that you should probably tell Nathan's wife before I do. Her face had lost its color. I did not wait for a response. I walked out. I shut the door behind me, leaving her standing there, shaking, mute, and absolutely powerless for the first time in her life. But it wasn't over. I did not drive home until I had completely destroyed everything she had built. Because I didn't have a house anymore. Not the one I thought I had, however. The house and the marriage. Emily and I built our life together. All of this was a lie. A skillfully crafted illusion, held together by manipulation and my own naive confidence. But now I could see everything clearly, and I wasn't the only one. I drove into a parking lot. My knuckles ached from gripping the phone so tightly. The messages remained on my screen. Emily's words, Nathan's words, proof of everything. One text. That is all it would take. I hovered over her name. Olivia Carter is Nathan's wife. We'd met several times. Barbecues, company, and Christmas parties. She was kind and sweet, even. I'm always trying to start talks with Emily, always complimenting her outfits. All the while, Emily was sleeping with her husband. My thumb hovered over the phone button, which I then pressed. It rang once, twice, 3 times, followed by a click. The fatigued voice sounded perplexing. Hello? I took a breath. Steady. Controlled. Olivia. I said, This is Mark. A pause. Oh, Mark. Hi. Is everything okay now? Everything is a disaster, but I kept my voice level. I need to tell you something, and I need your whole attention. Silence. Then he hesitated. Okay. But I exhaled gently. Then I told her everything. Texts, lies, and motels. While she was at home, trusting her husband, he was with my wife. At first, She remained silent, just silence. Then she took a sharp, shaking inhale. "Are you certain?" she whispered. I did not hesitate. "I have proof." Another pause, longer than a shift. Olivia didn't weep. She was breathing heavily, and when she finally spoke, her tone was cold. "Send me everything I did, every message, every receipt, every piece of evidence." And then I pressed send. I sensed Emily's world was going to collapse, because I wasn't simply leaving. I was carrying everything down with me. My phone buzzed after around 20 minutes. "Olivia Carter," I answered promptly. "Did you receive them?" Silence. Then her voice was chilly and piercing. What a shithead. I nearly felt sorry for Nathan. Almost. I could hear her breath. She appeared steady yet controlled, as if she was forcing herself to be cool. "How long?" she finally asked. "At least 6 months." I said, "Perhaps a little longer." A bitter, unfunny laugh. Unbelievable. I leaned back in the driver's seat and stared at the ceiling. "What are you planning to do?" She did not even hesitate. "Destroy him," I smiled. Good. Because I had just started a chain reaction, Emily had no idea what was about to happen. 1 hour later, I parked a block from the house. I didn't want Emily to hear me approaching, because this wasn't simply about leaving. It was about ensuring she felt everything. I stepped inside. Quiet. Control. The living room was empty. The kitchen, too. Then I overheard it. Emily's voice was urgent, coming from the bedroom. I crept closer. "No, Nathan, listen to me. You need to correct this right now." A pause. Her voice sank, terrified. "What exactly do you mean Olivia knows? How the hell?" She paused, since she had just finished assembling it. Slowly, she turned. I saw myself standing in the doorway. Her face had lost its color. I did not smile, did not gloat. I simply folded my arms and watched as she unwound right in front of me. Emily lowered the phone to her side. "Mark?" I tilted my head. "Is there something wrong?" Her jaw clenched. "Did you do this?" I shrugged. "Did you do this?" Her breath caught, and for the first time she appeared terrified. Good, because Emily had finally succumbed. "Here's the next story. I cannot show that my wife cheated." Does this suggest she didn't? But one thing is clear. I do not want my wife to be dragged down a wrong path by 2 of her pals. Joe strode through his quiet kitchen, grasping his cigar tightly and snipping off the pointed end. He smiled when he noticed that his wife had already brought the bottle of wine and the glasses to the pool deck. He felt it was going to be a good night. The kids were at an overnight camp, which meant a night of skinny dipping for Joe and his wife Melissa, followed by a night of loving. Joe was hoping for another on the way. Melissa usually got extra kinky when she was drinking al fresco play, and once she even challenged him to give her a rim job. Anything was fair game when her inhibitions were down and they played truth or dare. His lovely wife of 17 years sat on the pool's edge, her feet kicking under the artificially warmed water. She had a beautiful view of the sunset and was looking forward to spending some alone time with her spouse. Her asterisk tingled as she watched him enter through the sliding door and paused to smoke his cigar. She kept an eye on him whenever she had the opportunity. He remained her ideal man, and she enjoyed watching his flowing motions when they met. She spotted him first and knew right away he was the one. Update. She met him as her friend Jerry's cousin, and Jerry made it a point to hype him up and make sure they both attended her son Zach's birthday party when she saw him for the first time. He was heading out of Jerry's in-ground swimming pool, carrying her 3-year-old son on his shoulders. His muscular torso glistened in the sunlight as water beads fell from his skin. His smile was infectious, and it made her smile right away. She shrugged it off, feeling stupid, and helped Jerry take out the lunch. Later, while stirring the potato salad, Melissa heard a voice behind her. "You must be Melissa." She turned and felt weak. He was standing in front of her, speaking with her. She stopped and stuttered. "Hi, my name is Joe Kelly," he said. She took his outstretched hand and spoke quietly. "I'm Melissa." He leaned in and whispered into her ear. "We aren't supposed to know, but we have been set up." She was mesmerized by his icy blue gaze. She knew she'd be looking into those eyes for the rest of her life. She softly said, "I'm fine with that," and offered him a wry smile. "I agree." "You are more beautiful than Jerry," he said. Her most recent attempt to remarry me failed miserably. Melissa wanted to laugh. She knew the woman Jerry had paired him up with on that blind date. She was out of Joe's league in terms of appearance and had the personality of an angry cat. "She has been telling me about you for months, Joe. You're kind of a loner, never attending any of her events. I always come, yet I have never met you." "Oh, I wouldn't call myself a recluse. I had a falling out with her brother Alex and now try to avoid him. That means I'll have to miss a few parties." Melissa nodded. Knowing Alex's romance with Joe's wife, he found out after they had barely been married for a year. So he relocated to Florida, which is probably a good thing for us. Then, Joe stared at her fiercely and said, "How is that?" Even then, Alex's connection with his ex, Sherry, remained a source of contention. We'd finally met. He smiled and nodded, raising his beer in a feigned toast. "I believe it would have happened sooner," she explained, "but I split up with a long-term lover a few months back." He knew Jerry had made it a point to tell him everything about her buddy and the unfaithful partner. She had a feeling they would be kindred souls. "I need another beer," he explained. "Do you want to walk and chat some more?" She accepted his hand, and they started courting. A little more than a year later, they were married. Back in the present, he walked the stairs to the pool deck and asked, "What would you like to listen to this evening?" She looked up and noticed a developing bulge in his tight swim trunks as he approached. She knew what he was expecting, and she would be delighted to deliver Sinatra. "Play the Love Songs playlist, please." He nodded and began playing music from iTunes through the pool's Bluetooth speakers. She brought him a glass of his favorite Cabernet in a plastic stemless wine glass, and he drank deeply. "Isn't it a great night?" he asked, gently stroking her thigh. "Yes. Unfortunately, you missed the nicest part of the sunset. That's okay, love. I wanted to tidy up after dinner." Once we got further into the second bottle of wine, it would have sat till morning. She snuggled onto his shoulder and inquired, "Are we swimming tonight?" He chuckled and added, "Oh yes, we're swimming tonight." He placed his glass and cigar down and went into the warm water. He understood she wanted to play in the water and was grateful for their private backyard. She followed him into the water. He sank into the water, as did Hunter. "You'll always be my champion, sweetie. I love you. I love you, Joe. I always will." At breakfast the next morning, Melissa said, "Joe, I forgot to ask you about going out with Jerry, Sonia, and Marcy tonight." "That is no problem, honey. You do this every week. Every Saturday, the girls went to one residence while the boys went to another. In the fifth week, the couples would all meet up with whoever Marcy was dating. This time, however, we are heading to a club rather than a residence." Joe grimaced as he gazed up at her. "You know I dislike that. You don't have to dance with the lounge lizards hoping to be laid." "Not for dancing, Joe. It's a male strip show." He coughed up some coffee. "Strippers. Why in the heck would you want to do that?" "We felt it would be enjoyable. There will be no guys there. The club is exclusive to women." Before he could say anything, his cell phone rang. "Hello?" he snapped, without looking at the caller. "Hello, Joe. It's Dawn." Dawn was Jerry's spouse, and he and Joe were close friends. Joe stood and filled his coffee cup. He asked, "Are you okay with your wife going to this strip club?" Dawn remarked, "That's what I was talking about. I looked it up online, and it's not like the strip club was touching. Grinding is a theatrical routine. I'm fine with that. Hell, asterisk. I watch worse with an asterisk. Asterisk, Asterisk. But, are you sure about that? 100%. Their website expressly states that their dancers do not enter the crowd. They claim to be no-touch and respectful to women. Man, I don't know, Joe replied, unconvinced. I'll text you the website. Try it out for yourself. Okay, I will call you back later. Joe looked at Melissa and spoke. Jerry may have convinced Don, but I am not. Give me some time to think about it. She grinned and added, Of course, honey, saying no is not okay. He nodded and went into his den to do some study. While he was doing that, Melissa called Sonia. Sonia was also married, and Marcy was the only single person in their circle. Sonia. Brad, what did you say about the club tonight? He does not care. I could dodge one of the dancers in front of him, and he wouldn't notice as long as he had a beer and was doing sports. He did not even ask any questions. I did inform him that it was a strip club for ladies. Wow. I believe Jerry got Don on board as well, because he called Joe this morning and told him about the performance. It sounded like Don was attempting to persuade my parents to let me do it. Jerry must have gave her to him. So are you cool with it? She did. I spoke to her this morning. Both women screamed and laughed. Did she like it? Melissa asked. She adored it. Wow, Jerry is a slew asterisk. Tina, amazing. They chuckled, and Melissa spoke. I'll call you as soon as I receive the final conclusion. However, if he says no, he means no. I'm not going to urinate. Asterisk Smurf is upset about this. It is not worth it. Melissa was not willing to jeopardize her marriage for a male show. Joe closed the website and made his decision. He was startled to read so many reviews explaining exactly what happened inside, as well as footage from the entire 2-hour show. He entered the living room, where Melissa was playing Scrabble on her phone. Mel? She looked up and grinned. Hello, lovely. I'll let you go to this strip show on the condition that I drive you both there and back. It is in the city, and I do not want you to get too intoxicated to drive. That's too far for that. Thank you, honey. Of course, we accept your condition. There is no problem with you driving. Good. I am going to cut the lawn. Joe was double-parked in front of the club, watching the 4 blitzed girls stumble to their cars. It has only been a few hours, he thought, dissatisfied with their level of sobriety. How was your shot, baby? He asked. Awesome, she slurred. When I bring you home, you're going to knock the asterisk out of me? He chuckled, just as the other women had, at her brave announcement. Okay, Mel, that sounds like fun to me. He listened to the women talk about their favorite portions of the concert, and it all seemed innocent enough. It sounded similar to what he observed in the video he viewed after dropping off the other females. He fought to get his wife up and into bed. He saw his son's light turned on and hoped she'd be quiet enough not to let them see her in that state. The twins were 15 years old and knew what it looked like to be intoxicated. There was no concealing any embarrassing behavior, if something happened. He got her into their bedroom and kicked the door shut. She slumped onto the bed and he inquired, How much did you drink? She rolled over and flopped her arms onto the bed. Did not count. They simply kept coming shots. He scooped up her pocketbook from the floor and noticed her receipt sticking out. He was taken aback when the bill came to $120. That is a lot of shots, for 2 hours. He knew they'd each have their own tab that rotated, so he could only image how many pictures they had. When he looked around, he noticed she was sleeping, lying partially on the bed. So much for knocking the asterisk out of her. He pondered as he prepared for bed. The next morning, he awoke first and noticed that she had gotten up and put on her nightgown. He began laughing aloud when he discovered it was on backwards. He made his way into the kitchen, where his sons were eating eggs and toast. You're becoming better at over easy, Jack. Those look fantastic. Thank you, Dad. I'm going to practice flipping them in the air next. He laughed and said, Awesome. Hey, Jimmy, I saw you were awake when I got home at midnight. You did not stay up too late, right? You recognize me, Pop. I was online with the crew playing COD. Yeah, just be sure to get some sleep tonight, and for God's sake, finish your schoolwork today. Not an issue. Pop. Joe considered going out for coffee instead of using his grinder and creating a lot of noise. He chose to make it, and the grinding jolted Melissa awake while the coffee boiled. He heard the lads start laughing and looked up to see Melissa enter the kitchen. "Mom, I love Mark's new nightgown. That's far superior to wearing it the right way." She looked down, realized she was wearing it backwards, and collapsed into a chair. Joe smiled, amused by her hungover appearance, which comprised unruly hair and smudged makeup. "Jimmy, go up to my room and get your mother's robe for her. It is on the back of her closet door." Jimmy bounced away as Joe placed the ibuprofen and a glass of water in front of Melissa. "I was planning to make some eggs, honey. Do you want an omelet? Please add extra bacon. One omelet with additional bacon. Coming right up. You look very battered, Mom." "Late night?" Jimmy inquired as he handed her the robe. "No, it's not late. I overdid it, however. Learn from this. Trust me." Joe laughed and agreed. "Yeah, you do not want one of those headaches, boys. Leave the drinking to the pros." They chuckled, and Joe replied, "Why don't you shower, honey? It will assist. When you're finished, your eggs will be ready." She grunted and headed upstairs. The men laughed as she walked away. Jerry called later that afternoon, and Melissa was almost back to normal. "Mel, Marcy wants a stripper at her house on Saturday. We'd be having our typical hangout at her house anyhow, and she wants to spice things up." "No way." "Jerry, I do not want to do it. It's one thing to see them perform on stage, but having one dance right next to you is quite another. If she does, count me out." "Okay, you're probably correct. I would not like it either." "Honey, I've been overwhelmed all day thinking about those swimsuits floating around last night. Dawn is getting lucky again tonight, that is for sure." They chuckled, and Melissa spoke. "I fell asleep on Joe last night. I have to make it up to him tonight, but I'm inebriated and exhausted. I need to find some energy. You should drink plenty of water and coffee. Hydrate and caffeinate. The last thing you want to do is send him blue B asterisk lols. Oh, honey, don't worry. I keep his asterisk lols drained you. That is my cousin you are talking about. Who are you kidding? You would have ducked him if he had allowed it." They laughed, and Jerry spoke. "Third cousins are quite distant, right?" They laughed again before ending the conversation. "Who is hosting the men tonight? Joe?" The following Saturday, routine arrangements resumed. Don is hosting tonight. Oh, it will make you pleased, because Jerry allows him to smoke in the basement. Yep, cigars, drink, and cards. It's a lovely night. I believe I can make it even better when we go home. Joe laughed and said, "Yes, I suppose you're right. Have fun and stay out of trouble, you two." They kissed, and she left for Mars. Nice house. Joe noticed her buttocks jiggle in her jeans as she moved away. Joe looked in the mirror while combing his hair. That's not what he thought. He looked good for his age. Melissa looked good as well. Their children were performing well in school, and Joe and Melissa's jobs were fulfilling. He smiled to himself, thinking, life is good. Very good. Melissa arrived at Marcy's house and noticed an unusually large number of cars. She knew Marcy had hired a stripper and invited more people over. She considered going home and texting Joe to come home for a pool night. But when she saw Jerry walking up the street, she wanted to tell her what was on her mind. "What's this?" "She is Jerry. You said she wouldn't get the stripper. She assured me she wasn't. Do not jump to conclusions. Perhaps she is simply having more people over than usual." Melissa said angrily, "I am not staying for a stripper." "I don't either. Do not worry about it." They walked into the house, where there were approximately 30 women spread out across several rooms. They walked around looking for Marcy and noticed she was on the phone. 15 minutes, girls." "Woohoo!" After hanging up the phone, she shouted. All of the women applauded their approval. Melissa stormed over and asked, "What the hell?" Asterisk. Marcy. Hey, do not worry. He'll only be here for an hour, so go play bingo with the other old bronze in the other room. Avoid that. I am not staying. Let's go. Jerry. They turned and left, not looking back. As they walked towards their cars, they noticed Sonia walking up. Did you know about the stripper? Jerry asked. Yeah, Sonia said. Is he arrived yet? No, and we aren't staying. Our husbands would leave if they discovered we were here with a stripper. Mine doesn't care, and I plan to enjoy the show. See you later. They separated and Jerry inquired, You want to watch a movie or something? Not really. Nobody is home at my house. Would you like to come over by me? I know the guys are at your house, Jerry said. Yeah. If we go to my house, we will spend the entire night serving beers and sandwiches. Your house sounds nice. I have that Chardonnay you enjoy chilling in the refrigerator. Perfect. Update 2. That's it from me, Mel. I'm going to take Uber home. Jerry spoke as she completed her final glass of wine. Okay, it is getting late, and Joe will be home shortly. Shower up and prepare to ravish him. Melissa wiped sweat off her brow and said, I like the way you think. Melissa had just finished her shower when Joe entered into the bedroom. Hello, baby. How was your cigar? Night. Joe thought it was strange that she was showering and said, Fine. I played some cards and lost a wager, but I did get to smoke one from Dan's private humidor. Oh, the nice ones. Hey, the boys will be home by midnight. That gives me half an hour to get ravished. Joe smiled and said, Let's get to ravishing. Joe's cell phone awakened him up the next morning. Yeah, he murmured into his phone. The SLU astronauts had a stripper last night. I saw the photos on Sonia's phone. Brad shouted. Brad, slow down. Did you mention a stripper? Yes, sure. Sonia and I have the same color phone, and I accidentally picked her up this morning. There are photos of her with Marcy. The ducker took them himself, using her phone. Sage. Asterisk. T! Joe yelled, awakening Melissa. Melissa asked, What is the problem, Brad? Let me call you back. He hung up and stared at her. Strippers. What did you expect them to know? Jerry and I left. I swore. Where have you gone? Here. We came here. She was in complete terror. God damn it, I noticed you showered last night, which seemed unusual. SH asterisk. T. You avoided him, didn't you? You had to shower to get rid of his odor. Joe, are you nuts? I showered because I had gotten sweaty sitting outside. I was not there. Prove it. What? How can I prove this? Nobody was home. Wait, Jerry's automobile is still here. I didn't see her car when I arrived home. Look outside. He stormed downstairs and Melissa followed closely behind. He opened the front door and they couldn't see her car in the driveway or on the street. She informed me she was going to take an Uber. Joe called Dawn. Hello, Guy. Is your wife with you? Yes, she's right here. Why? Brad called and told me he had photos of Sonia and Marcy avoiding a stripper last night. Dawn shouted. Jerry began speaking, and Joe heard the beeps of the call ending. Melissa's phone just rung. Melissa, please tell him where we were last night. Don does not believe me. Put him up. So Dawn asked. I swear we were both here until 11:15. We left the party. Yeah. I'm sure it was after the stripper had left. When the call ended, she sank to her knees. Joe stormed the preacher. She overheard his callback to Brad. Can you see Mel or Jerry in any of the photos? Brad answered no, but I looked over them all and didn't see them in any of the photos she took. Okay, thank you. Joe sat at his kitchen table trying to find out how to prove she wasn't present. Melissa walked in and gave him her phone. What is that for? You can look at my photos. What is it going to show? You were probably smart enough not to snap any embarrassing photographs. I'm sure your two slew of pals are regretting it this morning. They are not SLU asterisk points. Marcy is single, for Christ's sake. Sonia is not, but it doesn't matter. Brad was telling us last night he believed she was cheating on him. I suppose he has his proof now. Oh, no. She gasped. He stepped in and glared at her. Did you know? Were you aware she was cheating on him? No, she isn't cheating on him. At least if she is. She never informed me. Yet here she is, at Marcy's house, with a stripper. Real devoted wife-like demeanor. She sat down to cry. Joe, I swear we left and arrived here. I'd never lie to you. Melissa, this is tearing me up. I want to believe you, but I am having difficulty doing so. She stood and hugged him. He did not return it. I need to get some air. He went to his bedroom, got ready, and headed out. Jimmy was getting out of his. What's going on, pup? It's nothing, son. Just some mature controversies. There's nothing to worry about. He nodded and entered the hall bathroom. Melissa was still sobbing in the kitchen as he left and walked to his car. He received an SMS from Don. Meet me at IHOP in half an hour. He grimaced and responded, on my way. When he got at IHOP, Don and Brad were already there. Hello, folks. They both nodded, and Joe sat down. Don started. Jerry is a wreck. I could have gone too far by calling her Slew *T and Who *Re. So I've got my work cut out for me, Brad admitted. Sonia insists this was her only time cheating on me. She said she barely taught him for around 20 minutes. She also mentioned that your wives fled before the stripper arrived. Joe was torn. He couldn't believe they were having a party with strippers. Was the review shown the week before? Is it just a warm-up act? I'm not sure what to do, people, Joe said. Brad stated. Dude, Sonia blamed me for this asterisk, she explained. I don't care about her. All I care about is sports. She never told me that. The girls went to a strip club last week. I would have answered no, Joe snapped. You at least know she ducked that stripper. We need to believe that ours didn't. And to be honest, I've been cheated on before and am still suffering with it. Don stated that you will still not attend a family party if Alex is present. It must have been quite painful. Joe nodded. She had been ducking Alex since the day she met him at our family reunion. It took less than a day to get into her trousers, which lasted until a year after the wedding. Joe's views on fidelity and trust were unwavering, and they did not change. He was, in some ways, unyielding, believing that a promise made must be kept without exception. He despised those who betrayed their promises and harbored resentments for years, if he were the victim of a broken word. I'm not sure how we can confirm they left, Dan remarked. If she had just taken the dang Uber, we would know where she was picked up. Joe looked at Brad and asked, What are you planning to do? Divorce. We don't have any children, and we make roughly the same amount. It will be an easy split. Damn. Sorry, guy. Don stated and considered how difficult divorce would be for him. Don and Jerry had children, but at 20 and 21, they were older than Joe and Melissa. They owned some rental properties through an LLC. They split the ownership. They had another firm that they owned together, but Jerry was her primary employer. Don's major source of income was flipping houses, which he owned 80% of through an LLC, with Joe holding the remaining 20%. Joe had provided him a considerable sum of money to buy his first several homes, and he still contributes from his portion of the profits. Don didn't want to worry about the challenges associated with corporate separation, buyouts, asset divides, and holding. He knew it was going to be a nightmare. Beyond the headaches, Don adored Jerry, heart and soul. He felt torn and his heart ached. What are you going to do, Donald? Joe inquired, thinking it would help him decide. Don shook his head and added, I'm not sure. I do not have any proof that she did anything improper. I don't even have proof she was there. I'm starting to think we're overreacting to this. Joe frowned. I don't believe we're overreacting, but I believe we should calm down and assess the situation before diving in. Our marriage is beyond repair. Agreed, Don said, knowing he had already crossed the line. Update 3. A dance venue. Melissa and Jerry were trying to find out how to persuade their husbands to understand why they were being punished, but they had made the correct decision by leaving the party. Melissa explained, "I know why Joe is upset, and it's because of that boisterous Sherry and your brother. I just don't get Don's problem. I didn't know you when Jerry started. But when I met Don, he had recently been dumped by his fiancée. She cheated on him with a rich joker and fled for greener pastures. Oh, she is. I did not know." Jerry smiled and replied, "We don't talk about it with anyone. We made a fresh start together and put the past behind us." "What was the bargain between your brother and Joe's wife?" "Joe would only tell me that she cheated on him with Alex. It was wild, Mel. We met her for the first time at a family gathering. They appeared to be madly in love. And that is exactly what Joe told me." Melissa nodded. Knowing Joe's ability to love directly, Alex and I were eating together. Then Joe and Sherry joined us. Joe and I were catching up as I hadn't seen him since before he left for college. He and Alex traveled to state together. They were really close buddies. "Oh, wow," Melissa gasped. "Yeah." Anyway, Alex and Sherry began conversing. She was just beginning out as a realtor, and Alex mentioned that he was looking to buy a property. Of course, no one knew at the time. It was only an excuse to swap phone numbers. "Why?" Melissa asked. "Alex informed my parents after everything went to crap." Asterisk indicated that he was retaliating against Joe for having played with his girlfriend. Alex was able to get Sherry to perform a vengeance duck, which turned into an affair. Of course, Joe never slept with his ex. Joe was a different acquaintance of Alex's, so Joe and Sherry married, and she continued to meet Alex whenever he was available. He was a salesman for a technology company and traveled much. They were found as Alex was playing with her at my mother's house during a summer party. Joe's father walked in on them. Uncle Ray actually punched Alex out. It was wild. Poor Joe. "Yeah, he was broken up over it for a long time before meeting you." She smiled at Melissa. Sherry sought pardon and accused Alex of lying to her. Joe did not see it that way and dumped her abruptly and cruelly. "I can't lose him, Jerry. He's my entire life. We need to remedy this. We will fix it. I'm not sure how, but we will." Joe and Don were seated on Joe's porch later, smoking cigars. Don glanced out over Joe's wide backyard and added, "I'll go home later and beg forgiveness. I can't prove anything, and I was really terrible to her. I can't do it just yet. Duh. First, they had a strip club show last week, and the next time they get together, they will have a stripper at their house party. It doesn't add up to innocence for me, Joe. We've got no proof. We have both been burned, Guy." It took me a long time to completely trust Melissa. She never knew. I didn't trust her for the first few years, which was difficult. And it appears that I never learned to totally trust her after all. However, Joe was grabbing at straws in an attempt to prove a negative. We don't know for certain where they were or what they did. I feel like we're coming across as hard-nosed as Astra's coals and endangering our marriage. My marriage is already at jeopardy. Damn it! Isn't it too coincidental that they had a stripper the next week after that show? I swear, Don, it's as if they tried to ease us into the idea with the strip club act before hammering home the point with the private stripper. If Sonia hadn't been so foolish, we would never have known. I apologize. Joe, you're on your own with this one. I'm going home and trying to make things right with Jerry. I'm not totally letting her off the hook. I'm going to establish some ground rules, and the girls' nights must end, is number one. But I believe we are being too unreasonable. Joe couldn't understand Don's sudden and total transformation from mere hours before when he was spouting fire, and for no apparent reason flipped on it. Joe wasn't certain he could accomplish it. That is your decision, Don. My wife isn't going to call me an asterisk. Even if she didn't avoid him, touching or being touched by a male is not appropriate in my opinion. Joe, I think you're a fool if you end your marriage over a stripper she didn't play with. I think that's on me. Epilogue. Melissa walked in as Don was leaving. When she stared at Joe, she burst into tears. I am sorry, Joe. I'm just not sure what I can do to verify I was here. I swear we did the correct thing. I don't either. Mel. Joe. Jerry gave me the entire story about Sherry and Alex. I am sorry this occurred to you. I wish I could relieve the anguish. You did relieve the agony, love. You gave me your best. It was all I needed. It's everything I'll ever need. Except now I'm experiencing a new agony and betrayal, and I can't handle it. Please, Joe. She sat. I'm going to grab a motel room tonight. I need to be alone and work this out. I am lost. Mel. I really am lost. He turned and began to pack his bag. Melissa sat on the couch and cried a bit later. The kid stepped in and noticed her. Mom? What is wrong? You have nothing to worry about. Jimmy, your father, and I are having some troubles. It'll be okay. What did you do, Dad? Jimmy questioned Joe, who had walked down the stairs with an overnight bag. I did not do anything, son. Your mother and I are working out some issues, and it is none of your concern. Okay, fine. Treat us like children. Whatever. Jimmy stormed away, and Jack said, When are you coming back? He pointed to the bag Joe was holding. Perhaps tomorrow, or in a few days. I do not know. Stay in touch, son. I will. I promise. Melissa sobbed as Joe walked out the door. Jack sat next to her and held her. It'll be fine, Mama. It will work out. I hope so, Jack. I sincerely hope so. Joe and I spent 2 days together. We're no closer to a decision. He'd had enough of sleeping in motels and checked out when he got home. There was no one home, and the alarm was set. He entered his code and shouted, The son of a noisy. He dashed over to their computer and looked up the alarm company's website. He checked his history report and saw the time the alarm was switched off the night Melissa and Jerry were supposed to be at his house. Are you staying for good or just visiting? Melissa sneered as she inquired from behind. He stood up and walked up to her, taking her in his arms, and she sobbed with relief. I'm very sorry, Joe. I'm the one who should apologize. I switched to attack mode and never gave you the benefit of the doubt. I apologize. I didn't believe you did the right thing. I suppose after all these years I still have some issues. Are we all right? Do you believe me? When I got home, I switched off the alarm. It struck me. I reviewed the history log and saw the time you entered the code. It backed up your story. I apologize. I didn't consider it previously. And I've been in as an asterisk. She laughed and gave him a kiss. We need to make some new guidelines for the strippers, and the show problem has not been fixed. It's a no-go for me going ahead. It is over. That is okay. I have no problem with that. What else? Marcy and Sonia are gone. So you're telling me who I can be friends with right now? If this is how you view things? Yes. Sonia cheated on her husband, and Marcy condoned it. Those are not the types of individuals I want to associate with, and I don't want them to drag you down a wrong path. She groaned and replied, I understand. I guess we'll drift apart anyway. Sonia is getting divorced right now. She was served with papers today, and you are correct. I can imagine her and Marcy wanting to go out seeking for men. Jerry and I won't be doing it. He held her and told her, I love you and I'm sorry I didn't trust you. As long as you come back and don't leave me again. We can get through this. You are my sole love and sweetheart. I do not need anyone else. You simply have to believe that I know. Where are the children? She asked. Allie's home. According to the note, they left. Let's go upstairs, she replied, smiling. I haven't had you in about a week. I'm in withdrawal. I've got exactly what you need, sweetie. Joe followed her. Yeah, life is good. Thank you for listening to today's stories. If you enjoyed listening, please like and subscribe if you haven't done so already. Also, leave a comment below to share your thoughts on what happened. Take care.